How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I am just gonna post, I feel like I see people joining a different Zoom link. So let me see if I can. Da, 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 da. How's your weekend been?
Good. I am coming off of a bad cold, so
Oh,
I'm vertical and human.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I think of it as like, okay, maybe this is the breakdown before the breakthrough.
I was just gonna say, sometimes it is that last like physical purge. Is the cold over and you're just like recovering now?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
recovering.
good. Um, Let me just post this Zoom link for workshop. Oops. Something that I recently saw was, are you familiar with Dr. Brian Artis?
No.
He, okay, that's posted. Um, he's somebody worth looking up on YouTube. What's really interesting is um, nicotine actually cures all viruses like really quickly. And so he has this thing where he's like, you should wear a nicotine patch for like um 3 milligrams or whatever. He has all this research on it. He's done all this research at Harvard and it cures dementia, it cures viruses. They found that people who were using nicotine didn't get COVID, like all these things. And earlier this year, back in September, I had just like watched that. And then I started to feel like I was coming down with something. And I chewed on a piece of nicotine gum and I woke up the next morning, like everything gone, feeling like 100%. So it's worth just like Googling his YouTube and just seeing some of his videos because he presents it in a much more articulate way. But he has like all the science and facts on it. But um, I don't know. I'm kind of becoming a big proponent to it that it could be something. He wears a patch all the time, 24/7. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna. I don't know that I feel aligned to do that personally. Maybe I just
Yeah.
still have like beliefs that need to clear around like it being addictive or something. Renee, it's Dr. Brian Ardis,
Nice.
Ardis.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, there's just Harvard did all this research on it that like during COVID, people who were wearing this patch didn't get sick or got them out of like the really dire circumstances. They show how it like shapes the brain over time and it like clears out like the dementia, the parasite, like there's so much that it does. So it's kind of interesting.
I guess like the patch and the gum would be like almost like micro dosing it in
Yeah,
amounts. Hmm.
totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I went down his rabbit hole and I thought everything he was saying was like really interesting because, like one of the things I always understand is that like the light creates everything, the darkness manipulates it. So it's like sugar, nicotine, like all of these things in their raw natural form are actually really healthy for us. It's only when we, especially in the US, take it and make it super, super toxic, that it actually becomes a problem. So it's like, yeah, that it's technically, I think, in its purest form, just a nootropic.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a rabbit hole. My Virgo's in the sixth house, so I love to go down health rabbit holes. I could stay down there for hours.
I just saw your TikTok on the fire horse and looking
Yeah.
at your Chiron and all that stuff. I had to write it down because I'm like, I don't know what this stuff is, so I got to write it
Yeah.
down. And I was like, okay, I got to look at where my houses are and
Yes.
sixth house and something else. I don't remember.
Yeah. The sixth house is your daily habits. Saturn is the karma you're being asked to let go of right now. And it's like Saturn is in Aries, the band-aids are getting ripped off right now. Like it's that time. And then Chiron is your wound, the biggest thing you're here to heal. So like mine, for example, is being misunderstood. It's my biggest wound in trying to express myself, and it still comes up over and over again. So yeah, it's just if we make moves this week, it's literally like I have not tuned in to an energy like this, and I don't know if I ever have to this capacity, like the energy that is available to us next week. And not that it's like this one time thing and you miss your chance if you don't do it. I'm not saying that. I don't like fear-based stuff, but the energy is incredibly, incredibly powerful to very supportive if we make a choice to let go of the stuff we're meant to let go of. And again, that's that identity, the Saturn, the sixth house, the habits, whatever it is. if we do that, like it will be so easy to let it go and to just move forward because of this energy. And then there's like this portal, like this, there's a quantum leap available. So yeah, I'm really excited for this energy and I can feel it in myself. Like I felt like I woke up and was like, oh, like I'm ready to get shit done, you know?
And do
So
you do, I mean, like, I know this is for something else. I'm sorry. This will be my
okay,
last question. I promise
you're good.
everybody. Do you do private readings just to like understand all of that stuff?
I don't, but I can actually share someone with you who does. Who's she's actually and she's going to be on my podcast in like a week or two. She's who I go to when I need to understand something that's happening with me.
Okay.
So yeah, I've actually closed all personal sessions right now. Just doing the group, but yeah, I will DM you after her information because yeah, magical. She's like a unicorn for mastering all of that.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? I feel like I saw most of you just a few minutes ago. Thank you for coming back. Nix, I feel like I don't know you, but I'm so happy you're here and I love this image. Is that a seagull or a stork or what kind of bird is that?
Uh,
Phoenix?
hang-
Oh,
Hi, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pelican.
Oh, a pelican. Oh, well, I love it. It looks very fierce and powerful.
Thank you. I'm just trying to figure out how to. Apologies for my late arrival. I've just come out of a big meditation, so
Nice.
I am just trying to figure out how to put the camera on.
No worries.
Uh,
Take your time, and you're right on time. We were just chit-chatting away. So we are a few minutes past. I am going to jump in now. I feel like anyone who is going to be able to make it has made it. So sharing your story. This is one of the most powerful, liberating things that you can do in your lifetime. And the reason being, like if you have worked with me in any capacity, everything I do is through my story. I coach, I teach my course, I share it on these types of calls, I share it on social media. The reason your story is so important, one, it's full liberation for yourself. Two, when you share your story, it shifts energy in people. And when we share a story, we bypass the ego, right? So, like, if you tell somebody what to do, or you're like, hey, this is your problem, a lot of the times the ego is going to get in the way, even though the soul's consciousness wants to receive the information. When we talk through story, this is why the Bible has stories, why most religions are told in stories. It bypasses the ego and allows the information to reach the soul. So, this is why whatever you are here to do, whether you're here to share your gifts, a coaching business, there's something you want to do or express into the world, your story is going to be such a crucial piece of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here because I did put together a PowerPoint for us to dive into. Okay. Can everyone see this? Yeah, cool. Okay. So there is a collective shift happening right now, and it is time for us to rise up and share in the most unapologetic way possible. What's important to remember is that sharing unapologetically does not mean exposure. It doesn't mean we talk about things we're not ready to talk about. It doesn't mean we have to bare our soul to the world. It means there's a message, there's something on our heart, on our soul that we are here to express. And it's time that we start doing that without this fear of how we're going to be perceived, how we're going to be judged, how people are going to respond to us. And the reason I love helping people with their story is because when you actually process your story, you liberate yourself. Your story will show you every area of your life that needs to heal. It's going to show you your blind spots. I mean, it literally shows you everything. So before you even start to share it, massive shifts can start to take place. And that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this. So before we dive in today, I just want everyone to take a brief moment. We're just going to ground into the moment and set an intention. So just go ahead and close your eyes. Bring your hands to your heart. Take 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, nice and slow. Go ahead and breathe in. And exhale. Breathe in again. And exhale. And last time, breathe in again. And exhale. Just allowing yourself to fully arrive here in the moment, to receive what you're meant to receive today. And I want you to just set an intention right now in your head with your guides, with the divine, with your higher self, even just with yourself. What is it that you want to get from this workshop today? What is it that you are needing in order to be able to move forward and share your story? Just set that intention, knowing that we are in a divinely channeled container and you will receive exactly what you need today. So setting that intention. And then I just want you to take a moment and set an intention for 2026 with how you want to use your story. Is this to bring in new clients? Is this to start expressing yourself? Is this to start magnetizing the people who are here for your medicine? Is this to break the generational curse of silence in your family? Whatever it might be for you, just set an intention of like, this is what I plan to do. And maybe if you're feeling it, you could even set a deadline, like by April, I'm planning to share my story. Our intentions are so powerful. And if you have fears, bring them to light, surrender them to your guides right now, just in your head. God, source, spirit, universe, the divine, Archangel Michael, I am afraid of, here's what I'm struggling with, surrender it, help me, show me the way, lift this for me. Just take a moment to give that to the divine, allow this intervention to take place on your behalf. Okay, and coming back to the present moment. So a little background on me. Most of you, I feel, know me at this point, but for the benefit of those who do not, I am a intuitive divine channel, a quantum healer, and I help clear the unconscious wounds so that people can reclaim their soul level identity, connect to their purpose, and start sharing their magic with the world. So my frequency is that of liberation. And I combine all of my experience, my publicist and brand strategist experience. I'm a content creator with over 150,000 followers now. I've built this following doing it my way, not the way anybody else has taught. I don't post every day. I post when I feel like it. I share from inspiration. I share from the divine, and the frequency does the work for me. And that's what I teach throughout my entire process. I'm also a quantum healer and psychic channel and energy healing and alignment. I, at 37, found myself completely lost, and I had to start my life completely over, leave the corporate side of my life. I had to walk away from a narcissistic dynamic, and all of that is now the story that I share with the world, and it's part of the medicine I deliver. And the reason I share that with you is because this is how important your story is today. My story is a part of the reason why everybody is here. It's a part of the reason why people are wanting to work with me or connect with me, or maybe even if I don't ever meet them, they're feeling just a little bit less shame about the things that they hold against themselves. Or maybe they're feeling a little bit of possibility that you can start your life over from the ground up at 37 and things can turn out really well. There's so many different ways I share my story, and this is what you are meant to be doing in your own world in your own way. So okay. So the reason you need to share your story, again, soul level liberation for you, as well as for the people who need to hear it. But there is a cost to not sharing your story. Your survival identity stays in control. The shame will stay hidden and unintegrated. It will eat away at you. And when you have these feelings of shame and fear and guilt and whatever else is preventing you from sharing your story, that lives in your energy field. It blocks money, it blocks love, it blocks connection, it blocks forward movement. Your nervous system will always remain in protection. So you can do all the nervous system work you want. You will not fully recover into a regulated system until you are no longer living with what you are holding in through your story. This also means other people stay trapped in silence too. Think of every time you've heard a story and how it's moved you. Unexpressed truth becomes an internal pressure. And it's not about getting attention, it's about alchemization, right? So a lot of people will say, like, I don't need attention, I don't want to be seen as this or that. That's not what sharing your story is about. It's about the alchemy for you and for the collective. When you speak your truth, trapped energy moves. I lived with like thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions, all kinds of things. And I went down all the different rabbit holes of health, right? They did not leave my body until I started to speak, until I shared my gifts, until I shared my story, until I started to speak the truths that were on my heart, right? When we are witnessed, whether it's in our shame, our fear, whatever it is, that energy dissolves. And again, it does it for you and the collective. So think about the impact. If you were to share your story on social media and it reaches 500 people, think about the impact your story has. It's immediately dissolving energy for those 500 people. Like, that is a ripple effect that we can do in a very simple way. When you own your story, the projection, the exposure, it loses its power, right? Nobody can hold anything against you that you're not wearing like a crown. That's what I always say. Like, I wear everything as a crown because nobody can use it against me. And when you stop hiding, your nervous system is going to recalibrate to safety, right? So the energy will shift in every area of your life. Our voices, our expression, the thing that our soul came here to do, carries the vibration of abundance. It carries the vibration of connection. And it's meant to be the path of least resistance once we move through the fear, right? So the liberation is for both you and the listener, right? It becomes permission for other people. Again, think of how stories have changed you when you see it. And maybe it gives you permission to do something that you otherwise wouldn't have. So the first step when you're sharing your story, this is why I call it liberation, is the story alchemy. When you write down your story, it becomes very clear where your wounding is, because there will be parts of your story you don't want to share. Maybe you don't want people to know those things about you. Maybe by sharing that, you think you're going to hurt somebody else. Maybe you're going to, upset your parents or your family or your children or whatever it might be, right? In the process of writing your story, you want to observe what's coming up for you. But when you read your story back, you want to go through and like highlight, circle, mark off all the parts that you wouldn't want to share. And why? Because that's going to show you the exact wounding. And that wounding is happening everywhere in your life. Your story is just what makes it super, super obvious. And that's the part that you need to alchemize to completely free yourself. The reason that's important is because when we start sharing our story, not that you have to be fully healed before you share your story, but when you start to share your story, whatever wounding you are carrying will be reflected back to you. So if you believe nobody cares, nobody will care. If you believe that every time you share your truth or your story, you're going to be in danger, or you're going to be punished, that is what you will experience. So like whatever is in your story, those wounds hidden underneath the surface are going to be what the reality is. So you want to heal those parts so that when you do share your story, you create the experience that you're actually meant to have. People do care. People want to hear you. You're helping people. You're sharing your alchemy with the world. So there's a twofold here of not only does it free yourself, but it changes the experience. And I see a lot of people try to skip this part and they just start telling their story, which is also okay. You create your own path. And if that's your path, then that makes sense. Do it. But when you do that, you're going to get the exact response you don't want. And then that can also like shut people down and make people no longer want to share their story or no longer want to share certain parts of themselves. It just is reflecting the exact wounds that they already carried. I'll be judged, I'll be misunderstood, I'll be mocked, I'll be made fun of, I'll be punished. Again, whatever it might be for you that you're feeling. So if you choose to just dive in and start sharing, great. But be aware that whatever comes up for you is not reality and it is not truth. It is just a reflection of a wound that's being asked for you to heal. Your soul wants you to heal that piece of you. Okay, this is a 3-layer system that I use, and this is what you want to look at. This is a more tactical piece. When you just are like, okay, I've written down my whole story, I've done the alchemy, I've healed, I feel like I want to share this one part of my story, right? This is the 3-layer process you can use to map it out and start to actually kind of articulate, right? So you want to look at the wound, the reckoning, and the integration. Because we want to share from a place of embodiment. We want to share from, I've already done this thing and now I'm here to share it with you. Like I've mastered this thing and here's what I'm here to share. Here's how I can help you. And when we look at the wound, you want to get really clear, like what happened? How did it shape you? Did it change your identity? Did it change how you behaved in the world? Did it hold you back? Like you want to think about emotions, because what's powerful in a story is when people can connect through the emotion. So it's not just telling your story, it's like literally being in that frequency. So when I think about sharing my story, and I'll share a part of it, right? Like, so, okay, I'm going to talk about this part with the narcissistic experience. I'm very tuned in to what it felt like when I was in that place. I know exactly who I'm talking to and the emotions that they're going to feel, the stuckness, the fear, the scarcity. Like, I know who I'm talking to because I'm talking to a previous version of myself. So I understand also what they're needing to hear. Like, I understand that they need hope. They need inspiration. They probably need something tactical and tangible that they can like grasp onto and maybe take one aligned action that day. But I know exactly the wound that I'm speaking to and the experience of it. I know the fears that are coming up that are keeping them from maybe pursuing whatever that path is. And I also go through and I look at the reckoning. What is the moment where I finally said enough? What was that breaking point, right? We all have the breaking point where we leave the corporate career, we leave the relationship, we leave a part of ourselves behind, like whatever it is, there's a breaking point where it's like, it's a fracture within the soul where we're like, no more. What broke? What happened? What did you have to confront in that moment? And when you were confronting that, There's a dual process here of the freedom, because you probably felt really powerful when you finally did the thing that you needed to do, but you were also probably experiencing all the fear, the shame, and the scarcity that comes up with all of those things, right? So this is what you want to bring into your story in this reckoning. You want to walk people through an actual process. What did you have to unlearn from this, right? So like if I look at the narcissistic dynamic, I had to learn how to share my voice again. I had to learn how to find my voice. I had to learn to have an opinion. I had to learn how to set like all the different things from that experience, right? So these are all the things I tap into when I'm getting ready to share a part of my story. I know exactly who I'm talking to. I know the wound. I know that breaking point moment that people will resonate with, because the people who are watching the content are probably at that breaking point. And I know the next action or move that they need to take. And I know through my story, I can walk them through that, right? And then you look at the integration piece. Then I fast forward to like who I am now and how I came out of that process. What did that experience give me? What medicine have I extracted from it? What truth did I realize about myself? So you're taking people on a journey from the worst moment all the way through the empowered version. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So this is just a mini process, right? And if you're inside the Ascension Lab, in the Break Free course, there is a part that actually documents out how to share your story, like sentence by sentence. And I think it's in like the 7th or 8th module. But it actually shows you step by step how to start talking about it. But this is the 3-layer process I apply just quickly. I've alchemized my story now. So now I can just, okay, this is the part I want to share. This is something, okay, I feel like, I'm really tapping into the collective energy today, and I feel like people are really struggling with shame. So here's how I'm going to share this video. Or I feel like people are really needing to feel inspired and hopeful today because of what's going on. Here's what I'm going to share. And I apply this 3-layer step every single time. If you're trying to find your story, right? This is something I hear from people all the time. They're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to share. I don't know what part of my story, or why does my story matter? Or is it even going to help people, right? You can ask yourself a couple of questions. What is the hardest season of your life? Why was it so hard? What is the repeated pattern that occurred over and over and over again, right? What does everyone come to you for? What people naturally come to you for is a frequency you carry. Do they come for you for clarity? Do they come to you for advice? Do they come to you all the time because you're the person who just has this ability to solve their problems? Whatever people naturally come to you for is a part of your frequency and your essence. And that's a great place to start. So like if everyone's coming to you for this advice, there's a collective that needs that advice. What do you see the general public struggling with? A lot of my content comes from being inspired at the grocery store because I see people doing wild things and I'm like, what must be going on in that person's life for them to be acting this way? They're probably struggling with XYZ. Like I very much look around me at what's happening and then speak to that through my story. And then what lessons have you learned and how did you learn them? One thing I really want to hone in on this is that a lot of times what stops people from sharing their story is the simplicity of it, right? And I like to bring up this example of Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins shares, and I'm not saying this from a negative perspective, I think Mel Robbins is great, but she shares the most basic information ever. Yet it is profound to the listener. People are blown away by her advice all the time. And it can be like really simple, like just get out of bed and do the thing, right? Like let them. How many people's parents said to you growing up, let them. Mom, someone's bullying me at school. Let them. Let them. Like she turned that into a movement, right? Like people don't need profound. You're going to try to make something profound or look for this like really important thing or this big thing. People need simple stuff. They are struggling with simplicity. It will be profound to them in the moment because it's exactly what they need to hear. So that's something I really want you guys to focus on is like, you can share one lesson that you learned. It doesn't have to be the big life lesson. It could be something so simple. I've shared very simple, basic things about like, I'm a Virgo. I'm super freaking organized. I'm the most efficient person you'll ever meet. That is a superpower of mine that I did not appreciate. And I thought nobody needed help with because it also comes easy to me. So it's like, people struggle with this, right? But I'll share something so basic about like my morning routine and people will pop off on social media like it's the most amazing thing I've ever shared. And to me, I'm like, I almost didn't share that because it seemed so like stupid or just like not helpful. So don't look for this big, profound experience. And every time you're looking for your story, think of Mel Robbins and the let them theory and what she turned into a movement, which is the most basic thing we've all ever heard because she knew what she was doing and she put story behind it, right? And then energetically, If you could only use one word for the theme of your life, what would it be? So for me, it's liberation. That is literally the frequency I carry. And it's also written all over my astrology chart, my human design. It's liberation. So my stories come from the lens of liberation. But what is yours? Maybe yours is love. Maybe yours is peace. Maybe yours is, I don't know, it could be anything. But what is your repeated theme over and over and over again? I think most people here it will be some form of liberation, breaking free, overcoming, something to that I mean, if you're a mission led soul in any way, that is generally the path of what things have looked like. But look at that frequency and then say to yourself, like, okay, if my theme is liberation, what's something like I've had to liberate myself from? Maybe it is bad daily habits. Maybe it's, just
Rebellion.
mindset shifts and perspectives. So allow yourself to just look at the simple things in your story without trying to make it super profound or impactful. It will be impactful when you just share. And I want to talk about some of the common blocks, right? Because when you have resistance in your field, you're going to experience different blocks. But resistance is your body's intelligence. It's telling you something. So you don't want to just like plow through it, right? There will come a time where everyone just has to plow through and face the fear. It doesn't go away. You learn to move with it. But if you have a resistance, it's like, let's just look at it and see if we can clear the block first. So a lot of things here. Everyone has already talked about what I want to talk about. This is one that stopped me for a really long time. I started with tarot reading and I was like, there's enough tarot readers out there. There's enough psychics. Nobody needs another one. Why would they come to me when there's 100 out there, right? There's people who already talk about narcissism. Nobody needs to hear my story. There's other visibility coaches. There's other identity coaches. Here's the thing. Nobody can do what I do because I bring a very unique perspective, as does every single person on this call. So even if you're talking about something that is already talked about, instead of looking at that as a negative, say, good. That means a lot of people need this right now. That's why so many people are talking about it. And my voice is my differentiator. My experience is the differentiator. I hear a lot of times my story isn't that bad. Others have had it worse. Why should I share mine? Because we're not like trauma comparing, right? We're not looking to see like who had it worse. Like that's not the point of it. It's looking at what part of your story is going to be impactful for somebody. And somebody who had it way worse than you may still need the advice that you're giving. So it's taking away the attention and the, oh, I'm sharing from this place. I'm not one of those people who needs to be seen. I'm not one of those people who needs to share. Like these are the things I hear all the time. And it's like, be one of those people who needs to share. Be the person who knows that other people have had it worse and still chooses to speak up because, your story matters regardless of the level of trauma and however you're ranking it, right? Trauma is trauma. No one will care, why bother? That's going to be in your story alchemy, like why bother sharing this? And if you believe that to be true, that will be the reality. So you really want to look at that. Where did I learn that like what I have to say doesn't matter? Where was I dismissed? What does that look like? The fear of being misunderstood or judged. You want to look at how that has played out in your life. But at some point, you also just have to accept that you're not here for everybody. Not everybody is going to understand you. And people are going to judge you. But people are also going to love you. People are also going to understand you. And so you have to really look at it like, am I going to let the few, I always look at it this way. Am I going to let a couple of really unhealed people on the internet stop me from saying the thing I need to say to the people it's actually meant for, right? Like you might have 5 haters, but you're going to have 1,000 soul family. That's what you want to look at. Not being healed enough to talk about it. The most powerful messages do come from embodiment, right? But you don't have to be perfectly healed to share a part of your story. You don't have to be like a total master to share what you want to share. Mastery and embodiment is a frequency that creates movements, but you don't get there by waiting until you get there to share. You get there through sharing. So you don't need to be in this perfect state, right? And often, especially for mission-led souls, light workers, healers, there are parts of our lives that don't reach success until a later point in life. And we can't just like not hold back because that's the case, right? That's the kind of the, I don't like saying karmic path, but that's probably the best way I can explain it right now, is like that kind of karmic path of a light worker, of the things you are meant to overcome in this lifetime. We're here on a soul path. So we're not the average person, right? What if I go viral and I lose control of the narrative? And this is where you want to look at like, what are you afraid of happening if you lose control of the narrative? What are you afraid of? This is actually funny because a lot of people I work with, this will be the fear. What if it goes viral? So they're not afraid of failing. They're afraid of the success. So you really want to look at that. Like if it goes viral and you lose control of that narrative, what are you afraid is going to happen? because I'm more afraid of not sharing and someone having the narrative that way. Because if you don't tell your story, somebody's going to tell it for you, right? And then you lose your power altogether. So I look at it more that way. And if I lose control of the narrative, what am I trying to hold on to anyway? And who, like, no one's controlling the narrative, right? Like, those are stories that we're making up. What scares you about going viral? Being seen by the masses, being seen in your vulnerability, being seen in your wounding. Like, these are some of the things that you want to look at. And in some aspect, if you're going to have visibility, we have to just get comfortable with some of these uncomfortable things happening, because we're not going to be able to escape it. We're not going to be able to control what goes viral or what doesn't. I don't want to be visible because I like my privacy. Being visible is not exposure. You get to decide what is visible. As you write your story, you get to decide what you share. You get to decide how it's shared. Sharing your story doesn't take away from your privacy. It doesn't take away from your peace, right? So it's really looking at, like, what do I want to keep private? And I said this earlier today on a previous call, but I look at visibility as my house. Like, if I don't know you and you're a stranger on the internet, I think, like, okay, I'm going to open my front door and I'm going to allow you into my house. But that's where you're going to stay, is in the front of my house. If I know you and you're coming into my world, maybe you're on this workshop, maybe you're in the Ascension Lab, or we're coaching together or something, I'm going to be like, let me show you my bedroom and let you show me my bathroom and my closets and look over here and look over there. Like, that's the level, that's how I look at visibility. Like, the more you come into my world, the more I'm going to share. And again, visibility is a journey. So in the beginning, what you share in your living room might be really limited until you get more comfortable, and then you slowly start to build it out where you feel comfortable sharing and being who you are. Because the fear of being seen and the fear of sharing our story is a fear of being ourselves. There's something or somewhere that, like, we don't think is good enough, or we think something is wrong with. What if I get hate or negative comments for this? Well, what if, right? Often I ask myself why. Actually, the thing that I got the most, like, was disliked about me the most my whole life was asking too many questions, and I would always ask why. And people didn't like it because I mean, I didn't even know I was doing it, but I was exposing truth. But I was always asking why, like, why?
Yes,
And that's
me.
it. I
It's
still
me.
ask. You do that too, Nick?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and it drives people nuts. But I
Yeah.
didn't know I was doing that. I was trying to understand people. And I have a Scorpio stellium in the 8th house. I want to know why. I want to know what's underneath the surface. I can't help it. I just do. But I ask myself why all the time right now. Like, if I'm worried about getting negative comments, why am I worried about that? What will that make true about me? If I get a negative comment that says XYZ, what am I allowing to become true? Right? So you really want to look at these different blocks that are going to come up, because again, I'm not saying don't share your story until you're totally healed, but you want to look at, like, what this is going to be the reality that you create, right? So if you're expecting negative comments, if you expect to get punished, you will get them. If you're expecting that nobody will care, nobody will care. So you really want to heal that before you go out and share your story, just so you're not re-traumatizing yourself. Okay, biggest block of all that I hear. How do you share your story without exposing other people? This is a big one. We want to share from a place of empowerment, right? So, like, when I thought about this in the beginning, I felt like I couldn't talk about anything because it was going to expose somebody somewhere all of the time. And so I had a really hard time with that. For me, when I talk about narcissism, I've never exposed who the narcissist is, ever. And nobody will ever know, because it's not important. Like, I'm not here to attack the person. I'm here to attack the system of narcissism. I'm here to attack it in the bigger, broader perspective. I don't really care to make that person the main character. And it's not really about them. It's about my journey. So it's not about what they did to me. It's not about how these things happened. It's about what in my healing journey was not taking place that got me to the point of being in that situation. How did I get out of it, and how did I heal, right? So there's a lot of different things you can do here, but do not make the villain the main character of your story. It's important to have a villain. So, like, my villain is narcissism in general. It's not a specific narcissist. My villain is the people who lead the spiritual community from a place of false light, right? Like, it's not specific people. I'm focused on an archetype. And that's what I suggest to people, right? There's a lot of ways to tell your story without saying specific things. I talk a lot about my childhood wounding. I've never once said, like, my mom did this to me, or my mom this, or my mom that. Here's a wound that I have, and here's why it's important. And I focus on the empowered version of it. If you want to talk about a specific person, it's your story. You do what you want with it, right? But you want to make sure you're sharing from a place of, like, integrity, a place of You want to be empowered and healed. You don't want to be in that like reactive state, right? So instead of saying something like, my father was a narcissist who ruined my confidence, or my father was a narcissist and he did XYZ, you say, I grew up in an environment where I learned to earn love through performance, and that shaped my self worth. Or you could say something like, I grew up in an environment where narcissism was present, and here's what that created. We don't have to expose specific people, right? And if you feel called to, that's your story, your journey. So you focus on what you felt, what you believed, how it shaped your identity, and what you had to unlearn. You don't focus on the person, right? The other part of that, and I talked a little bit about this again for some of you who are on the call earlier, is if there's somebody in your life and you want to share a story and they're still in your life, like I don't really worry about the narcissist because they're not here anymore. But if someone was still in my life and I wanted to tell a story, I would probably talk to them and be like, hey, I'm sharing this story and here's the why behind it. I'm not exposing you. I'm not going to use your name. Truthfully, on social media, nobody even knows anyways. Like nobody knows my mom. She's not, even if she feels uncomfortable with me saying things, like nobody knows her, right? Like it doesn't matter. There's a charge there though, because they feel they're being exposed. And so when you kind of share like, hey, I'm going to share this part of my story and I'm sharing it from this perspective, it's not about your involvement in it. It's about like my journey out of it. And it's important for me to share because XYZ, when people can understand the why, they may not agree with you. They may not like it, but it removes the charge or like this like energy of like, you're doing this to me, right? And so people can usually try to get on board, but it also might just take time. But I really just want you guys to focus on like, what is the thing that people need to know out of your story? That's really like the most important part. It's not about exposing people, it's about exposing the systems. You want to remove the need to prove or convince, right? The more you try to prove or try to get validation for something, the more you leak your power. So you don't have to diagnose someone, you don't have to explain their psychology or convince the audience that they were wrong. And I know we see a lot of stories told this way on social media. That's not going to work in the age of Aquarius, right? With Pluto being in Aquarius, it is not going to work. It needs to come from authenticity and true light. People who are telling stories in that way, it's going to crumble and collapse. You want to share from, this is how it impacted me, not let me tell you why this person is bad. Let me prove to you how toxic they are. Let me prove to you how bad things were. You want to keep it super simple because people don't need to, like, we don't need to like commiserate in our trauma bonding or our wounding. We need the path out of it, right? And that's what everybody on this call is here to do. You want to speak from integration, not activation. So before you share, am I regulated? Sometimes when we revisit our story, old shit comes up, right? Like these wounds can kind of reactivate within us. It's happened to me plenty of times. I will have a whole story I'm about to go share, and all of a sudden I pull up this camera and I can't speak. And I'm like, I have no problem filming content. What's going on here? Like, that's a moment where I have to look at it and be like, oh, I'm activated right now. So I need to like regulate and revisit this. Am I speaking to heal or release anger? There's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's knowing your intention behind it is going to be the impact that you're creating. Can you speak this without the emotional charge? It doesn't mean like if you start to tear up during your story or you start to feel during your story, that's beautiful. Emotion is beautiful. The emotional charge, though, is like, is it going to reactivate anger and rage in you? If it is, I suggest taking a moment and like really going within and doing that internal work before sharing. Because again, when you do and you share in these emotional charges, you literally just re-traumatize that wound and it's going to make it harder for you to continue moving forward. So, process privately, call a friend. If you're in the Ascension Lab, you have plenty of places to like, do this with people and like work together to actually move through that. But your authority, your leadership comes from integration and an empowered perspective. So really look at that when you're sharing your content is like, what have I integrated? What do I know I need to integrate? And how can I be empowered myself and use this to empower other people? When we share from that frequency, our stories are so powerful. When we share for a need of validation, wanting to be seen, heard, or believed, which everybody wants, but when we're like, I need to be validated, I need people to believe me, we are sending out and we will receive the opposite energy. You can protect your privacy without diluting your truth, right? So you can change identifying details. You can speak generally. You can say someone close to me, an environment I grew up in. You teach it through a neutral character, right? So I'll show you an example, or I'll share an example. I shame is a huge emotion in the collective that needs to get transmuted. So I often talk about shame. You will see a video of me face to camera talking about my shame, and then you will see a video of me on the whiteboard walking Jane or Bob through shame. That is a neutral character that I'm talking about, right? Because sometimes it's easier for people to collapse the information and actually do something with it when they see it in a neutral perspective and document it out. Other people will be moved by my experience and me talking face to camera. But if you want to talk about something, you can find a neutral way to do it. Bob and Jane are neutral characters. All of their stuff is based on me, everything, right? So it's like, but it's a neutral character where I can walk through things without having to necessarily always have it be like me or people in my life. You know, if you work with clients, you can often say you can use a client or a friend. You know, you want to tell a story from your childhood, but it would absolutely create danger for you, right? If you told this story for whatever reason, you can tell that story, but use the example, I have a friend that went through XYZ. And so you can still tell the story. It doesn't have to be like totally diluted, but we do it from a place that makes you feel safe. And again, you might do that in the beginning, and then 6 months from now, you're so good at sharing your story that you're going to start owning that story instead of putting it into a friend or a client or whatever. But there's a lot of ways you can start sharing from a neutral character perspective. And then you want to remember your own experience. Again, you're not exposing someone else. It's about the impact it had on you. And you are not here to protect people's reputations, right? A lot of families operate on secrecy and silence. And they have created a reputation in the world that they want to upkeep. And your story, your truth challenges that. So when I think about this, I'm not here to protect anyone's reputation. I'm here to speak truth. And if that shatters someone's reputation, well, that's an opportunity for them to reflect internally. So you want to think about that, right? Like think about where you've been silenced based on reputation and how that's kind of shown up for you. And then again, we talked earlier about prepping people involved, having conversations, if it feels appropriate to do so to remove some of those charges. So tactical aspects, you want to define like 2 to 3 core messages out of your story, right? So you want to think of 2 to 3 things that no matter how you tell your story, these messages will always be there. So for me, it's always liberation, my voice, visibility. Like there's always these same 3 themes throughout every story. You want to define the feeling of your message. So again, my frequency is liberation. Look up your frequency. Look at it's what people come to you for. It's what people naturally experience. It's in your birth chart. You can look in your astrology. Like it's everywhere for us to find. And you want to create an experience. So you want to show people, not necessarily tell them, right? So for an example, a lot of time when I tell the beginning of my story, instead of saying like, oh, I had to post my first piece of content, I was so scared, it was really hard, that's telling, right? The way I share it to give you the experience is on the day I posted my first piece of content, I spent 5.5 hours filming for a video that was less than 2 minutes. Like I'm sharing the experience with you and painting that picture because you know, if I only got less than a 2-minute video, what must have been taking place in that 5.5 hours, right? Like the hell of recording, re-recording, forgetting what I'm like, you can put yourself in that moment where you're like, oh my God, I've tried to do that. And that's so annoying. So you want to share from like creating the experience, not just telling people, right? So you want to think about painting those pictures. A powerful story has 3 main key components, and this is kind of that 3-layer process I showed you, but you have the challenge, the shift, and the outcome. What struggle did you face? What inspired change or growth? And where are you now? And what did you learn? Those are always 3 things that I'm thinking of. So if I happen to be somewhere and I just want to film a quick piece of content and it's like kind of on the cuff and I haven't planned anything out, this is like the 3 things I look at. You want to make sure you have the protagonist, right? That's going to be you. You want to make sure you have a challenger, an antagonist, or your villain, right? The villain archetype. And then you want to make sure you're like, you have your allies, your mirror characters, guides, helpers, like whoever was involved. Like you want to look at this as though you're writing a book and like really creating that experience of bringing the characters that are necessary to tell that story and paint a picture. You want to leave room for your story to evolve. The goal is authenticity, not perfection. What is authentic today will be different from what's authentic 6 months later because you will have cleared a lot of wounds, but you just want to start somewhere. Okay. So that is the presentation part of everything, but I wanted to leave some time to dive into some of you all's specific questions or blocks that you're having with sharing your story. So does anyone have a question that you want to dive into? Let's do it, Pratika.
How do you actually get started? So I feel like
Mhm.
this is like a really good format, but it's like I feel like once you get past that first couple of posts, then you
Yeah.
get the ball rolling. But I feel like those first couple of posts are like the hardest.
Yeah, for sure. So let me pull up and I'll pop this in the chat really quick for you guys. Mm-mm. I'm going to pull this document out of the break free. Um, okay, so let me pop this in the chat so you guys have easy access to it. This would be the very first step that I would take. Zion. Okay, so this document is going to help you figure out exactly how to start sharing your story. So you want to write down 3 to 5 core truths or themes of your story. You want to develop the characters. This takes you through like very step by step the whole process we just went through. And then the second part, what I would do is I would pick a part of your story that does not feel emotionally charged. And then I would decide like, okay, this is the story. This is the piece that I'm going to go out. I feel like I've alchemized everything that can be alchemized here. And then I would actually like script out the video. So I'll show you guys really quick kind of what I would do. Um, which this is for YouTube videos. It's a little bit different, but I don't script out really for like Instagram usually. But basically what I do is I have like my structure here where these are the different titles I'm working with. This is like, and this is actually the video. If you saw my video today, this is where all of that came from. I kind of put in a hook here, like, okay, here's what you need to know to not get burned by it. Like, this is how I structure everything. And like, even when I'm doing Instagram, this information just kind of lives in my head. I need to have a hook. I need to know what I want people to leave with. Then I go into the overview of the video. This becomes a journal entry. It's kind of chaotic, right? Like this was like a 5 minute video, but it's pretty in depth. I write all my thoughts down. So like I got all my thoughts out about the fire horse energy. I got all my thoughts out about these Aries astrology placements. I tuned into the energy of it and I just kind of wrote everything down. And then I was like, if I was going to give somebody a blueprint for how to handle this energy, what would that be? And so this is how I structure, like, again, that this was for a YouTube video. And then I just made a smaller version of it to post on Instagram and TikTok. So that's like the structure I would use for like my 10-minute videos. For Instagram, I still follow that process, but I just do it in my head of like, here's the hook. And in my hooks, I want them to know what they're leaving the video with. So like you'll hear a lot of my hooks are like, I'm going to show you what's going on in the quantum field when you're afraid of being seen. I'm going to show you how to alchemize your shame. I'm going to show you like they know exactly what they're getting from the video. And then I go into like the part of my story that's there, right? So, like, what am I holding shame over? What is totally alchemized I feel I can share? And then I will journal on it. And then even my Instagram posts always come from a journal entry. Like my Instagram and TikTok come from journaling almost always, unless I get like a random inspired idea while I'm doing dishes or something. But it usually comes from like actual journaling. And then because I've just brain dumped everything, I have like a pretty clear idea of what I want to say. And as long as I lock into a hook and an outcome, because for me, I like every single piece of content to give somebody one action that they could go take today, right now, to like actually implement. So as long as I have those two things, everything in the middle, I kind of just let myself flow talk from what I just journaled. Does that help?
That does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. No worries. No worries at all. Anyone else have a question that they want to work through? We still have about 10 minutes left. Hey, Sweta. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Good to be here. Hi everyone. So I had like I guess a personal experience that just happened that I wanted to like see what like to do about it.
Okay.
Um, so I basically shared something really vulnerable at my last like birthday party, and then I ended up sharing part of it on social media. And then all of that was fine. Like I felt empowered sharing it. I felt like I've alchemized like what I was sharing. And like the social media post was really vulnerable. It was like me crying on social media. So it was like really out there. And I still felt like empowered through that whole thing. And then last week, I'm taking improv comedy classes, and um, one of the like suggestions was like speech, and then they were like, tell us like what comes to mind immediately when you think of speech. And so I started sharing the speech I shared at my birthday in a short form of it. And basically, the speech was like 3 years ago, I threw a birthday party, invited like 14 people, and no one showed up. And then 3 years later, I threw the same birthday party, same location, same everything, and then everyone I invited showed up. And so that for me was like a really powerful moment. So when I hear a speech, that's what came to mind. But I realized in that sharing in that space, I was almost choking, and I felt like I was feeling like, oh, like a lot of emotions. And I almost like I was like, should I even finish sharing? But I was like, I'm already at the tail end, so I just shared it. And then even now I felt a little bit of that. So I'm not sure what that is. Is that like me still moving through that energy, or like, because it feels like the other times I shared it felt good, and then like these times it feels like a little harder. And so I'm not sure where I'm at in the process
Yeah.
of sharing that.
What the other, so you shared it on social media, which is just you and the camera, right? Then you shared it in front of a live crowd, it sounds like, with improv. And then you're sharing it here in front of like a live audience virtually. Is there anywhere else you've shared it where it was live like that?
No, besides my birthday party,
Yeah.
two people that came. So
Yeah. I would think it's probably this live sharing is different. So I think it's probably moving energy out of your throat chakra, but I think it's also like, oh, this is different than, if people are at your birthday party, they know you. If social media, you're not, it's straight, it's just like anonymous on the other side versus that now there's all these eyes on you watching you while you're speaking of something that sounds like it was very difficult for you to go through. So I think it's just the live speaking, and I would actually keep doing it. I think that's good. There's a lot of times where I'll be making a video on something that feels uncomfortable to talk about, and my throat will like and I'll have to like clear it and start like re-recording that part of it because I'll get blocked. So I think just let the energy move and keep practicing with like these live pieces, because even for me, filming on this versus talking to a group of people are two different experiences. And so it's just where your fear lies. But I think that's amazing that you shared that story.
okay, okay.
Yeah. You're welcome. Hi, oh, bye, Timothy. Have a good week. Hi, Lisi. What you got, girl?
Hi, Chris. Similar to what's her name? To Suida.
Yep.
I wanted to share with you because all my life, since I have used my voice, and as you know, I was a realtor, so communication has pretty much been the way that I have made money in my life. However, when I bring it to social media, exactly the same as Suida shared, a, a weird energy come to me that you can even see it in my eyes. It's like I can feel it in my chest. I can feel like a tightening of energy in my body, and it's just so weird. It doesn't let me be who I'm truly am behind the cameras. As I also share with you, the work that I do is also through communication. I talked probably more than 1,000 women in a year, and I'm in sales. And however, when I bring it to the camera, it's like I'm not that person. And I was wondering also what is that? I know it probably has to do with the nervous system, but I have done a lot of work on my nervous system, so I'm trying to figure it out, like where is that energy coming from? Even when I'm here, you talking about sharing the story and all of the things, like a weird energy come to my chest and my head. It's like something so strange that I have been trying to figure it out for a while, and it's
It's actually super normal. Recording content is one of the hardest things to do because for the most part, humanity is used to responding to energy, playing off of energy. So when you're having a conversation with a person, you can kind of see, do they like kind of question, or they're tilting their head, or they seem confused, and you can adjust yourself. If they seem to not like what you say, you can adjust yourself. If they're leaning in, you can adjust yourself and go in on it, right? When you're talking to this camera and it's just sitting there, it's a reflection that like we don't know how to exist outside of energy, right? Like, and as soon as there's something that's watching us, it's a very unnatural thing also to be watched by like an anonymous thing. Like it is a weird feeling. It's not normal. So what you're experiencing is super normal. I had that in the beginning a lot. That's why it would literally take me 5.5 hours to make a 2-minute video.
Mhm.
I would get so blocked. It would be so uncomfortable because I was like, who am I? Like, how do I be me when there's nobody? Like, I don't know how to talk when I'm not talking to someone. Even if I go around my house, I talk to myself all day long. I talk to my dog all day long. But all of a sudden, I need to say something. Who am I? Like, I don't even know who I am when I'm not talking to somebody. I don't know how to express myself. So there's nothing wrong with you. It is a learning process, though, of like, the archetype. One of the things that helps, and I don't know if you've done this yet, the social media mastery course in the Ascension Lab has your
Mhm.
visibility codex. That is really helpful because once I understood through my human design and like astrology, I am a teacher
Mhm.
and I'm meant to
Mhm.
show up in leadership. It helped me know like how that's where I, really got into the whiteboard content and like that's my natural energy. And actually, that's how I am. Like, if you were to know me in my physical reality and like you came into my house, I'm always teaching and I'm always talking. Like, I have not stopped talking since I was born. So it's like I'm always doing that. And I now know how to do that even when nobody's around and it's just this camera, but that's not an overnight process. It is developed.
Mhm.
If I were you, I would pull this camera up every single day, 15 minutes a day, talk to it without the intention to post. Just
Yeah,
to the weirdness of it.
that's what I have been doing. I was just trying to figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
the energy, but yeah, I have a feeling it's gonna get better. Okay, thank you, Chris.
No worries. We have time for one more. Judith, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Good. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So I came onto your platform because I got completely blocked when I was trying to record a reel.
Yeah.
And it does take me, like you were saying, like all day to record
Wow.
this small piece of content. And I say so many times and I just second guess myself so many times. But last week, a few days ago, I went live on Facebook and it felt good. It actually like I had like all this information that wanted to come out of like burst out of my chest.
Ooh,
It
I
was
love
so
that.
interesting. And now I'm having a workshop on Tuesday. And I'm like, well, when do I guess I'm trying to figure out like when is the most appropriate time to like share my story? Is it
Yeah.
like on my feed, on my workshop, so that people could know more about me? And if you have any tips on the workshop because I'm like some of you guys like I'm channeling a lot of these messages.
Mhm.
So I'm not even ready. Like I don't feel like it's so weird because there's like something deep inside that feels like confident, like
Yeah.
I got this, I'm gonna be okay. But I don't have like the slides and all the whole presentation together just yet.
You don't need
So
to.
I'm sorry.
You don't even need to. I have a lot of workshops where I just sit here and talk. It all kind of depends on what it is I'm sharing or teaching or talking about.
Mhm.
My first workshops, I definitely didn't have a PowerPoint. I basically had a prayer and a vibe, honestly, is what I would show up with. But like it's going in with the thing you want them to leave with. What do you want them to leave with from that workshop? That's the most important part. Is and as long as you have that in mind, like I want everyone to leave here feeling inspired and
Yeah.
ready to share their story in some capacity with at least one thing that's going to help them do that a little bit more easily, right? In the beginning is when I shared my story. I didn't go all the way into my story just because most people who are here know me at this point, and so I really wanted to save time at the end to answer questions. But I would share your story in the beginning and how it relates, right? So when I was
Hmm.
sharing mine, I was talking about my gifts. I was talking about starting my life over again, like the things that would actually be relevant to you guys and how my story became like the most important part of my journey. It's still today why people want to talk to me or work with me. I could sit there and teach my Bob and Jane content all day long, but my story is what brings people into my world. It's how they connect. So I would share it at the beginning of your workshop and use it like my story you're in the Ascension Lab, right?
Yes.
When you're going through that, I'm telling my story and coaching the entire thing through my story. Because again, it bypasses the ego for people. And so they can like receive the information. So you can even teach your workshops through your story. Like I told bits and parts of my story throughout the whole workshop today. So it's like you kind of give the overview in the beginning, and it's why, like, what part of your story really presents you as the leader for the workshop that you're running. And then as you get into the workshop, share parts of your story to help people connect the dots, because story is truly how people learn. It is why it's in the Bible. It's in like every religious text. It's all done through story. And then I would also share it on social media because, again, no matter what I post on social media, my story is what converts people into my world.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's it could be like triggering because I'm talking about like addiction and domestic violence and
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like do I like set up some kind of like trigger warning at the beginning or
I think it's up to you. I think at this point we speak so much on social media about everything. I think most people expect it, right? I talk about addiction. I don't say trigger warning on mine. If you feel that you want to do that, then do what feels right to you. And you could just be like, hey, like, I want to share with you, blah, 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 blah. And I just want to give you a trigger warning. One of the things I'm going to talk about is XYZ. I've seen it done both ways. I've never been triggered by somebody sharing a story, even with like CPTSD, like all the different things. Like I've never had that experience because I just think at this point, everybody is sharing everything on social media and we're kind of used to it. But if it makes you feel more comfortable, that's the most important part. Like if it's going to help you feel more free to share, you can just say like, hey, there's a trigger warning for something I'm about to talk about, blah, 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 and then just let it flow. But yeah, so there's a lot of, it's about what makes you feel safe to share. That's the most important part.
Oh, okay. And do you have any other tips or anything like for this workshop that I'm channeling? It's one of my first ones, so I have an audience that I'm a little bit nervous about it, I guess.
If you're nervous, I would put some slides together for yourself. That
Okay.
way you stay on track, like kind of put the structure together. Like
Okay.
if it's an hour long, break it up into 15 minutes, right? Like, okay, this first 15 minutes, I'm gonna talk about this, and break it up into like 4 sections. And if you're nervous, I would make slides so that you have something you can refer back to, and something to keep you on track. Because I know, like, if in the beginning when I was really nervous, I wouldn't have slides, I could end up on a tangent that had nothing to do with anything I was talking about. I'm just like off in left field talking about something.
Yeah.
So the slides can help keep you on track, but that's what I would do, and allow the channel to flow. The divine will never let you down. It'll make sure that everything's able to like move through you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But I need to feel like I need to stay on track because I'm trying to get them to book a clarity call with me and so it could lead to sales of my
Yeah.
program.
Totally. Yeah. Then do some slides so you can stay on track and like really lead them through something that says, I've got this, I'm the leader, and this is why you should work with me. So, but also leave
Amazing.
room for the channel to come through.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. You're so welcome. I'm excited for you. Good
Yeah,
luck with the
me too.
workshop. You've got some great energy to work with this week. There's
Yeah.
lots of moving and fire.
Right
So
on Tuesday.
oh, it's on Tuesday. Girl, you're gonna be good. That's gonna be fun. I'm excited for you.
Me too.
Amazing. Well, I hope this was super
Thank you.
helpful for everybody. I would love to stay and answer some more questions, but we are over time and I do need to run. But I'm sending you guys all so much love. Please understand your story is valuable. It is worthy of being heard. It is so freaking needed in this world. And if there was a time we needed it, it is right now. So start sharing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Share it, practice it, let it evolve. If you're inside the Ascension Lab, it's a great place for you to start practicing. Write it, speak it, but do something to start moving this energy. All right. I hope everyone has an amazing week. Happy Chinese New Year, Year of the Fire Horse, Aries energy. Make the most of this. I'm so excited for you all. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.